Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Murder at Lolly Beach by Jane Suen, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue. He whistled. Next to him on the passenger seat sat a basket of fresh, ripe peaches, their aroma wafting through the cabin of the truck. Not just any peaches, though. The first in-season Georgia peaches. It was still too early for South Carolina peaches. Blake had rushed to close shop and drive across the border to a local farm with a fruit stand, which remained open until dark. The peaches had looked divine, and a quick bite confirmed that the sweet, juicy fruit was worth the trip. Tomorrow he'd make his magic. His shiny blade would be ready to cut through the fuzzy skin, parting it to expose the ripe fruit. Blake checked the clock on the dashboard. 9:32 p.m. It was dark already. The coolness of the evening had descended. He passed the bridge and the sign for Lolly Beach, traveling down the single main street central to the small beach town. At the light, he turned left, then a sharp right into a food truck parking lot. He parked his pickup and turned off the engine before dashing inside his food truck with the freshly picked peaches. Blake didn't hear the click of the doorknob. Facing the counter, his back was turned, intent on making sure everything was ready for the big day tomorrow. Blake shivered as a thrill of excitement tingled up his spine. His fingers caressed the soft fuzz of the peach and traced the round curve going down the seam until it reached the tip, ending at the sharp point. They had met under the moonlight on the beach. The wind had stirred the water, and the salty spray mixed with the moisture-laden air embraced them. They raced to the ocean and felt the icy sting of the water slap against their legs. Powerful waves surged inland, losing steam after crashing on the beach and frothing into the sand. The waves chased them back. They ran out of breath. The moonbeam softened her face, betraying the childlike adoration in her eyes. Her lips parted. He felt the pressure of her warm lips, then the grip of her arms wrapped around his body, straining to close the gap. His feeble protests lost to the wind, dispersed by sea breezes. Powerful waves surged, swell after swell, relentless, urgent, slapping the shore. Primal desires overwhelmed his senses, rising as their joint cries reached a crescendo. Blake didn't hear the footsteps of the man who had crept up behind him. He didn't see the man raise his arm. The thump was the last sound as his body hit the floor. The man silently retreated out the way he came. Inside, a solitary peach rolled out of Blake's unclenched hand and made its way across the floor toward the open door. Chapter 1. Earlier in the day. I didn't need the road sign to tell me I was getting closer to the ocean, but my heart pounded when the first unmistakable one appeared. Palm trees dotted the landscape and lined the road. The sun blazed overhead. I rolled down the window to take a deep inhale, catching a gust of sea wind as it swept into my ratty old car. I licked my lips, expecting a slight salty taste as I propelled forward, my foot pressing down on the gas pedal, leaving puffs of smoke trailing from my tailpipe as I approached the beach. A switch clicked in my mind, shutting out all thoughts of Midway College. The crazy end of the semester was over. I had finished writing my term paper on Murder Creek and the missing Lacey Walken and turned it in to Professor Reynolds. I cleared out a few things left on my plate and paid my bills before I left town. Done with classes and exams, I wanted to have fun at the beach, sunbathe, read books, frolic in the ocean, watch the sunset, hang out at the oyster bar, squish hot, burning sand under my feet and between my slender toes. I didn't have a worry in the world. I felt as free as the wind twirling and teasing strands of my hair, whipping it across my face. Cassie, my lab mate at college, had invited me to spend some time with her at the beach, staying at her family's charming, quaint cottage. A change of scenery was what I needed. I could see myself lounging in a comfy chair or lying on a colorful towel spread on the sand as the waves crashed. Or kicking off my shoes and running toward the ocean, joining the swimmers, their heads bobbing in the water as the pulsating rhythm of the wet waves beckoned, drawing me closer to its vastness, beauty, and power. Her invite came at a good time. More than good. It was great. Perfect timing. I felt exhilarated, looking forward to some well-earned R&R, lazy days of doing nothing, or whatever I felt like. I couldn't wait to hang out with Cassie. I'd met her in chemistry this semester. We ended up in lab together, Bob too. It was a tough class, and together we plowed through it and became fast friends before semester's end. What a trio we were. Cassie, the striking, leggy redhead, Bob, lanky and serious with unruly hair, and me, slim-framed with thick, tawny hair. We had worked out an arrangement for the stay. In return for the free rent, I would buy the groceries, and Bob would contribute to the other expenses and buy other items as needed. We'd both help with the chores. Cassie and I would take turns cooking when we didn't go out to eat. Music blared from the car stereo. Long, slender legs thrust out of the open window on the driver's side, toenails painted a brash sea blue color, with strings of hemp anklets dangling around slim ankles. I smiled, pulling into the narrow parking space behind her car parked in the driveway. Oh yeah, it was Cassie, all right. Independent, spirited, sexy. She had to take a required science course and struggled in class. If it weren't for my help, she wouldn't have made it through. Cassie had tried her hardest and was proud of earning a C-. The class, though, ended any inclination of pursuing the medical career her father had insisted on when he paid for her college tuition. If she stayed in pre-med, she would have had to take biochemistry the next semester. It was common knowledge how much harder the advanced class would be, and with it a slimmer chance of Cassie getting a passing grade. No way she was going to take it. It took a great deal of cajoling, mixed with tears and pleading, to placate her miffed, angry father and convince him she didn't want to become a doctor. Would his conscience be clear if she blundered her way through medical school and misdiagnosed patients? Dear old Dad finally got the message. Cassie's heart was in the arts. Her good faith attempts in taking the chemistry class helped to smooth over her father's protests, and cranking up her charm as Daddy's little girl didn't hurt. Even her grandmother, Nora, had chimed in on Cassie's behalf, saying the girl may have inherited her creative genes. Nora had been a patron of the arts, and she dabbled in painting herself. This artsy beach house was her grandmother's. I hopped out of my car, slammed the door, and looked into Cassie's window. She had her eyes closed. "Cassie," I called out softly. When she didn't respond, I tapped on the car. Chapter 2. She stirred, opening one eye and then the other. Cassie flicked the thick curls of her flaming red hair behind her ears and flashed a smile, pulling her legs back in. She jumped out of the car to greet me. "Eve, you're here!" We hugged, acting like excited little girls, giggling and laughing. This change in scenery had changed my mindset and brought out the child in me, playing in the sand long ago. I still remembered the gaudy swimsuit I wore, the gritty sand slipping inside the fabric and sticking to my butt and in between. I'd worn a floppy pink hat my mother had bought to protect my delicate baby skin from the sun. She'd soothed suntan lotion on my face and everywhere. "I made fresh lemonade," Cassie said, reaching for my one piece of luggage. "Come on in. I'll show you to your room." I followed, stepping over the threshold as the screen door snapped shut. A blast of cool air greeted me. The bright interior of the cottage was breathtaking, painted in a beautiful shade of sea blue and tastefully decorated in a vibrant beach motif. An assortment of seashells and colorful glass bottles lined the white counter separating the living room from the kitchen. Pastel blue-green mugs and matching plates and bowls were displayed on shelves behind the glass doors of the kitchen cabinets. Above the comfy white couch, fish netting was artfully strung on the living room wall, with small seashells and crabs intertwined between the strands. It took me into Neptune's world. "It's so cute," I mumbled. "Who decorated this?" "Nora, and I helped her." I stood there admiring the decor. "Would you like to see your room?" Cassie asked. She led the way to the first door on the right in the hallway. I glimpsed a double bed. Wallpaper with sailboats plastered the walls instead of paint. A seashell mirror hung above the white distressed wood dresser. I scurried over to the bed and plopped on the pastel blue woven cover, claiming it. "I hope you don't mind sharing it," Cassie said. "Oh," I said, barely keeping the disappointment out of my voice. I wanted this cute, bright nautical room to myself. Cassie laughed, pointing to the bedroom across the hall. "I'm in there." "Where's Bob going to sleep?" "There's a closet-sized room down the hall, barely big enough to hold a twin-sized bed," Cassie chuckled. "He can sleep there or crash on the couch. I'll give him a choice when he comes." A twinge of guilt flashed as I thought of Bob relegated to the closet while I luxuriated in a room to myself. "When's he coming?" I quickly asked. "Tomorrow. Why don't you get settled in first?" Cassie said.